here this morning. So let's just start as we usually do with a few minutes of silent meditation. Give ourselves a chance to quiet the mind a little bit. So we generally just recommend using the breath for this. If you have a technique that you already use with the breath, then I would encourage you to do that. If you need a suggestion, I usually suggest working with the area of the nostrils where you feel the air coming in and out as you inhale and exhale through the nose. And just making that your meditation object. Try to stay present with it as best as you can. And of course, in any meditation, when the mind wanders and we notice that that's happened, then at that time, we correct our meditation, letting go of whatever it was that distracted us, and then returning to our object of meditation, returning to the breath. So I'll ring the chime here to begin the meditation period. We'll do a few minutes in silence, and then we will set our motivation. And then I think we're going to do a little meditation on equanimity, trying to maintain a more equal regard for all beings in this time of turmoil when we have a lot of division in our world. So we'll do that guided meditation after the motivation. So I'll start the meditation now. So let's first set our motivation for engaging in our meditation practice this morning, recalling that all of our practice boils down to two main ideas. One is to reduce all the negative tendencies that we have in our minds, all those things that cloud our minds, that are delusions. They afflict us, they cause us suffering. We want to remove all of that. On the other hand, we want to advance and develop all the positive qualities, all those things which bring happiness to ourselves and others, that are positive and grounded in truth. So the mind of bodhicitta, that is our ideal motivation, encompasses that concept, thinking that we're here to create the causes for that eventual attainment of complete removal of everything that is negative, that obscures the mind, and the full development of everything that is positive, that advances our mind to the greatest degree. And we do this not just for ourselves, though we will definitely experience the benefit of that, but we do this for all beings, because we recognize that all beings are exactly the same as us. They all want to attain true peace and happiness. So we can be dedicated to their welfare as we engage in this meditation this morning. So as I said, we're going to do a meditation on equanimity. And this is based on the idea that we have bias in our minds currently. We have some partiality. And this is a meditation that involves examining three groups of beings, those that we feel very close to, that we already have some affinity towards, those that we feel very distant from, that we may even have hatred or animosity towards. And then finally, the larger number of beings that exist who are strangers to us, that we generally have indifference towards. So visualize these three groups in the space around you. And again, on this day where we're examining the election as a very important thing in our world, we can think about the candidate that we favor, those that support that candidate, as well as the people we would feel much more closeness to in general in our lives, in the space immediately behind us and to either side. These are people that our hearts would naturally open to, and we feel some affection towards. And in the space in front of us, confronting us, are those people who are difficult in our lives. And here we could put the opposing candidate, the candidate that we don't want to win the election, whoever that may be. We can think about their supporters, especially those that embody what we truly dislike about that candidate and whatever they represent. And then lastly, we think about all the other beings who are simply strangers. Maybe again, in terms of the election, people from other countries who aren't even voting in this election, who may not even have any particular point of view, but all those beings who we don't have a more defined relationship to. We can't possibly visualize them all, but think about this sea of human beings, other beings going out in all directions. So the first part of the meditation that you'll do in silence is just to simply observe each of these three groups, look at them, kind of take them in, and observe your attitude towards them. You try to discern what it is that you feel towards those people who you consider to be friends, allies, those people who you consider to be enemies, difficult people, those people who are strangers. To see if you can discern the difference in your attitude towards these three groups. So no doubt you've seen some evidence of the partiality you have towards these three groups. The sense of attachment that you have towards those who are already close in your life, the aversion maybe even again anger or hatred you might have towards those people who are in conflict with you. And then the indifference, the lack of regard for those people who are strangers. These are all thoughts, and they are thoughts that are based only on partial data. They aren't looking at the entire picture. So let's first examine our relationship with our friends and come to a different understanding in terms of whatever attachment we might have for them really doesn't have a solid foundation. First, examine the fact that every one of these beings who is your friend right now in this life, who is someone you feel close to, even the candidate that you favor today, every one of those beings has also been a difficult person for you, perhaps even in this life. We have some people in our lives that show up initially as an enemy, as someone who challenges us. And over time, that relationship changes. And any one of these people who are friends right now could actually become someone like that. Even in this lifetime, there is great change and variability with regard to the roles that these beings play. But when we consider countless lifetimes, every one of these that we consider our friend has been in the role of our worst enemy or a complete stranger. There's nothing fixed and solid about that. Examine that first in regard to your friend. See if it lessens some of the attachment that you have. And not only is this subject to change in regard to our own experience of these beings within this life, from life to life, but also even within this life, we see that there's nothing that makes our friends into everyone's friends. In fact, the people that are in our camp as friends and people that we support and are attached to might be in the exact opposite category for others. Certainly with regard to the election, the candidate that we favor is seen as the enemy by all those in the camp of the candidate that we don't favor. Well, who's correct? Are they correct? Are we correct? Is there a real friend, somebody who is a friend to all beings in the same way? See that these varying views of the people we consider to be friends is also evidence that our attachment for them may not have solid ground, may not be grounded in any reality, because everyone sees beings through the lens of their own experience, their own views. So take a minute or so to ponder that and to see once more, does that help to lessen the feelings of attachment, the affinity that you might have towards your friends over others? And having worked with our friends to some degree, let's turn our attention now towards the difficult people. And this includes the candidate that we oppose. As I said earlier, all those who maybe embody what we most dislike, what we find most offensive. And recall that these beings too, just like your friends, have been in different roles, perhaps in this life or in different lifetimes. But in this life, maybe some of our dearest friends from grade school, from early in our lives, are actually in that camp now, are actually people that if we saw them, we might despise them. We might have feelings of animosity towards them. But they were your friend earlier in this life. Which view is correct? If we acknowledge that every one of these beings has been very dear to us, our closest friend in another lifetime, then is there really ground to hold them in that light and to have animosity towards them, to have this aversion towards them? So spend a few minutes reflecting on the transitory nature of these roles so that we begin to undermine the feelings of uh, enmity that we have towards these beings. And then just as we did with the friends, we can also examine the reality that those people who we consider to be our enemies, who are difficult for us, are seen as loved ones by others. Others hold them very dear, and to others they are strangers. So once more, whose view is correct? Is there an inherent enemy, someone who is seen that way by everyone in the world, every single being knowing them in that way, and therefore valid in any animosity towards them? Again, try to undermine those feelings of aversion and anger at these individuals we consider to be enemies by contemplating in this way. And then lastly, we turn our attention towards that vast majority of beings that are in this world and in existence, those who are strangers to us. Again, we recall the indifference that we feel towards most of them. And we can reflect in the same way we've looked at enemies and friends to see that every one of those beings has actually been very, very dear to us in this life, perhaps at an earlier time that we now would consider them to be a complete stranger, or certainly in other lifetimes. They've also been an enemy to us. But our feelings of indifference and our neglect of them, not having an equal regard for them, isn't really grounded in reality because it's only looking at the relationship right now. And moreover, as we contemplated also, every one of those beings that is a stranger is seen as a loved one to many people. Are kind of not seeing, we're blind to that reality of the way that they are perceived by others. So just try to take in those strangers with the same type of analysis to see if you can generate an equal regard for them on the basis of these thoughts. And then let's take in all of these beings with some thoughts that can help us to also have an equal regard and even-mindedness towards every one of these beings, to recollect that every one of them is just like you, just like each other, and simply wanting to be happy, wanting to not suffer. And the vast majority of us is every one of us, very confused about how to actually attain that. Kind of going through life under the control of karma and delusions. But we're all the same in that fundamental desire. Both candidates, all the people that support them, all the people who are outside the sphere of this election, every single being the same in this way. And moreover, every single one of them having the same potential to achieve true happiness and peace, to be free from all suffering. So try to rest in that equal regard that you can have for all beings on the basis of how they are all the same. And then on the basis of this equal regard, can you open your heart to every one of these beings and genuinely wish them to have happiness and all the causes of happiness, to be free from suffering and all the causes of suffering? Can you hold all of these beings in your heart with that equal regard? So then let's hold some thoughts of dedication from our meditation today, that we ourselves may live from this space of equanimity, having an equal regard for all beings, and moreover, that every being have this same mind, so that there may be greater harmony and peace in our world, so that whatever the outcome of today's election may be, that it be of the best benefit to all beings of this world, and all beings may be able to achieve complete enlightenment through all of our actions, through our own attainment of that state. Also dedicate for all of our precious teachers who are so needed in our world, especially in these difficult times. And then anyone else that we're holding in our hearts, we send this positive energy out to them so they may be free from their suffering and also find true peace and happiness. Wonderful. I enjoyed today with you very much, so thank you all. And again, have a very peaceful day today. Try to keep your mind in that state of equanimity. And I'll look forward to seeing you again, maybe at tomorrow night's class, if those of you who would like to join. And then I'll be teaching again on Sunday, as well as leading events on Saturday for Labab Duchen. So hopefully see you over the next week. Okay.